to the live stream. So you know, I'm here to support Nikki because Nikki's going to be taking it over.
And welcome to Weymouth Town Council Planning and Licensing, and a good evening to any members of the public who might be watching it on YouTube. We'll go straight in. I have to read the pre-election statement, which is apparently I get told off if I don't. So, this period covers the 6 weeks before an election and restricts what a council may and may not do. And I urge you all to be mindful of this. As chair of this committee, part of my role is to ensure the requirements of this period are met, and I will be doing that tonight. And I ask you all to support me in that. In this period of the council, which includes this meeting, must ensure that its communications and resources are not used to attempt to influence the outcome of an election. As such, councillors, officers and the public should refrain from any statements or discussions tonight which could be seen as promoting a particular candidate or a political view, or publicising politically controversial or divisive matters. This meeting exists to make decisions on the matters presented on the agenda, and as such, please limit your discussions to these topics. Councillors are reminded that failure to adhere to the government's code of practice concerning these matters would be a breach of the code of conduct, and so would be reported to the monitoring officer at Dorset Council. I thank you all in advance for your cooperation. We can now move on to item 1, which we haven't got tonight because we're all present. Well done. We can move straight on to item 2, which is declarations of interest. Does any member have any interest in the agenda tonight? No, we've no previous notifications of it.
We've had none pre-notified.
We can now move on to item 3, which is the minutes of the last meeting. I'm sure we've all had enough time to look through them. And are there any items on that members wish to bring up? If not, could I ask for a proposer and a seconder? Proposer by Councillor Orell, seconded by Councillor Wakeling, that we accept the minutes as written. All those in favour? Any abstentions? Any against? So one abstention. 2 abstentions. Yeah. We can now move on to item 4. And because we've got members of the public in here wishing to talk on item 12, I'm going to bring item 12 into item 4 with the committee's permission. Thank you very much. So I'll start with the members of the public who would like to speak on item 12, which is double yellow lines.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Stuart Meacham. My wife Susan. We live on Old Parish Lane, 46A. Quite often, people, if you look at the pictures that's in your handout, cars park either side because there's no restrictions, and this restricts vehicles, even moderately sized vehicles, getting down the road. Quite often, the bin trucks can't get down there. One of the ladies that lives in the sheltered housing across the way quite often has an ambulance turn up, and they have to park a ways down to get there. I speak quite regularly to the bin people, and they reported this to their hierarchy as well. So it is an ongoing issue. I provided loads of pictures to Dorset County Council on the road issues, and they keep saying, because they can't do anything, because there's no restrictions on the road, and the only way is to go down this route by applying for some sort of restriction. It's 21 feet length of yellow line from a car park, which isn't quite shown on the map, down to the fence that you can see on the picture. The right-hand picture. Right. You see the car park. So basically an entrance there to the end of the fence line here is 21 feet, and a double yellow line would stop people, well, if there's an enforcement officer around, to stop them parking where you can see that white truck, that white van struggling to get through. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir.
Would you take over tonight?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Right, thank you very much indeed, sir. I'd just like to point out that this, application is supported by a ward member, councillor Alex Furman, and he's asked me to ensure that all members know this. Would anybody like to comment on it? Councillor James?
Can I just ask, is it just that particular little length that you want the yellow lines? I don't believe there are yellow lines on any other part of the road, is
No,
there?
because the other side, there is a lady that's got a van, which parked on the
Yeah.
terrace houses. And as you can see, the red car that's
On the drive,
on the
yeah,
driveway,
yeah,
when they park down here,
yeah,
she has problems getting out because this is a one-way
Yeah.
system here. She has problems getting out and, getting out of her driveway. Even the lady there has problems if they park, along the road. So I've discussed it with the neighbours. And I said I measured it 21 feet.
and they're not worried about there not being yellow lines on any other section
No,
of that road?
no,
What
because
about,
that's driveway anyway.
yeah,
So you're not allowed, you shouldn't be parking there and nobody does.
well, what about on the corners? There's no yellow lines on the corners of that?
No,
road, is
well,
there?
people park there on the corners anyway.
Yeah,
Occasionally an enforcement officer's come around and I've seen them ticketing somebody that parks on the drop down curb there
yeah, yeah,
and also on the drop down curb there.
right,
This is all empty space here owned by Magna, which
Yeah.
is walled off.
yeah, which they don't use. I'm just wondering whether it's worth sort of extending the application to put just some small yellow lines on either corner on that side as well. I mean, I must admit, I've been down there and parked, or I've been to pick people up down there.
I mean, parking is
Yeah,
as an issue like everywhere
yeah,
else.
it is,
That part would stop people blocking the road for emergency vehicles
Yeah.
and refuse trucks.
so you don't think just some yellow lines on the corners as well would help, or do you
Well,
think that's sufficient?
In the highway code, you shouldn't be parking there anyway.
Well, you shouldn't, but people do unfortunately, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the yellow lines that are around the area, if you walk down there, like we do 7 o'clock in the morning with the dogs, there's lots of cars parked
Waste
under
of
the yellow
time,
lines.
yeah,
There's just no enforcement.
I think it's just because there's not enough parking on the
Yeah.
street, so yeah,
But I mean, that part is hopefully will deter people from
yeah.
blocking the road.
Right, and councillor Wakeling?
Well, Chair, we've heard from the resident, the local ward council supports it. I'd happily propose, 21 feet is going to lose a parking bay effectively, but it isn't a real one because you can't use both sides of the road, so. I'd like to propose what we do with what's been asked, support what's been asked.
So even by the pot in, paint yourself with paint.
So,
You might have to wait.
so committee, we have councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. Can I just ask, if the emergency services have reviewed this route recently? Because you made the important
Yeah.
point about the ambulance, and I understood emergency services routinely review narrow routes like this.
I think the fire service might.
Fire service usually drive their vehicle around,
so
and they
should we-
survey.
As part of our, I'd like to propose that we get in touch with the fire service to make sure, and to support the request.
I think they were out last year, weren't they, down some of these roads around Western, because I remember seeing that on Facebook actually, because they were showing how stupid it was, but
Anybody else?
I'd just like to say that that would add
yeah.
authority to the residents' request.
So, well, we have a proposal by councillor Wakeling that we support this application. We write to Dorset Council, don't we?
Yeah.
In support, and we would also ask, could we write to the emergency services asking for them to give comment? So is that okay?
Fine with, yeah.
Yeah, seconded by councillor Bell. Anybody else got anything they wish to say? No? So we can go to the vote. All those in favour? And that is unanimous, Nikki.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for listening to us.
I think it was always going to be supported.
Yes.
Thank you.
It does help you to come and say hello, it's nice to come.
All right, thank you for the drinks.
Thank you.
Take a biscuit.
We can now move on to item 5, which is planning application that members have expressed a desire to talk about. And the first one goes to councillor Wakeling, number 80, the Esplanade.
Thank you, Chair. I just queried this one because they wish to convert the ground floor and basement into residential. And this building is, well, actually, the building touches the flood zone. So there's a flood risk area, and then they want to put residential in a basement, which I'm sure you would not be allowed to do on a new development. And do we allow people to retrofit? I think we should just raise, I'd just like to put a comment on to raise this to the planning officer's attention, just so they consider that, because in my opinion, there's a risk there that the flood zone is at ground level technically. If you go 10 feet down, that you're in a different world. So in my opinion, we should put an objection and ask the planning officer to consider this carefully with review to having residential in a basement in a flood risk.
Whereabouts is migrating?
It is at King Statue. So I don't know if you can see from here. That's King Statue there. Number 80 is this one.
Bit further up than.
It is, but the orange there is the flood risk zone, which clips the corner of the building.
No,
So
I'm just thinking of where I used to replace and we had a
it's
basement.
very close to
Yeah.
that. But would you have lived in that way? Well,
Oh, no, I wouldn't, but it would.
Okay, councillor Rowell, you wish to.
Yeah, it's in my patch, it is. Probably if it was a brand new development, we'd be reluctant to put people in the basements. That said, a lot of the existing properties do have basement flats. I would support the objection and that the officers Dorset should consider it, because it probably needs some kind of internal stairway for people to escape from a basement to the next level. That would probably work.
Hello, councillor Knoll.
Good evening all. You refer to the flood zone. There is that very long and complicated flood risk assessment paper, and I've struggled to digest it. In fact, I haven't managed to. It could even be within the flood zone now, if they've increased the flood zone.
yeah. It has got worse, and yes, the layers in here could well be out of date.
So I think it's well worth raising the concern. Thank you.
So the proposal is that we object to this on the grounds of possible flood.
Yeah, and
Do
we
you want to word it slightly different?
I'm happy to object on those grounds. We'd like the planning officer to look at the look at the basement and the flood risk of the basement as a dwelling. I do acknowledge councillor Orrell's point, there are other basements that are flats in that very row, but do we want to allow another one? That's a decision.
Did you get the mate?
Yeah, probably nowadays they wouldn't allow it.
They wouldn't allow it now.
Would anybody else like to speak on this? No? So we have a proposal. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Orrell? All those in favour? And that is unanimous. Yeah, thank you. You then want to talk about the same building.
That's the list of building consent for the same one.
Yeah.
So that's the same, it's the same application.
So
Yeah.
same objection, it's just the LBC
Yeah.
side of it.
Have you got that? Yeah. We can now move on to 3 to 5 Maiden Street, conversion of nightclub into 6 dwellings. Over to you, councillor Wakeling.
Can I answer this? We did this last time, didn't we? We did. So sure we
What did you decide on?
Noise, wasn't it?
There was something around noise on the last
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I seem to remember.
Was the let me check the previous agenda. I'm wondering if the previous application that was considered was for, might have been change of use application. I will double check though, just give me a second.
We had the rum shut before, so but this is act. I thought we discussed this previously.
Just bear with me, let me find it.
Send it back with the recommendation.
Let's have a look.
Okay, in which case, then I would like to discuss it.
Yeah, I am just gonna double check the, yeah.
Well, I mean, this, shall I talk about it anyway while we're looking up? What
Yeah, please do.
So they want to convert the whole nightclub into dwelling, so there will be no nightclub next door or under it. But they want to build 6 in that plot, 3 on the front and 3 on the back. And they are quite small when you look at the plans.
Can you get the planning application up?
Are they one bed, two bed, what are they?
Some of them are ones, some of them are twos, unbelievably.
Density is a concern.
Well, I like density, but these are quite dense. Particularly things like there is no bin storage for them, which
Right.
you'd think, where are they going to keep their litter for 2 weeks between collections if they haven't got an external bin store? I know there's going to be zero parking, but they also don't have any cycle parking proposed.
Okay, which plan would we like?
Let's go for proposed ground floor and first floor, please. Squeezing them in. But yeah, so I think things. I'm not sure if there's actually any areas. I didn't see the areas. There must be the square meterage per flat must be in there somewhere.
Where's the actual entrance to them then on Maiden Street? Where would it be? By the-
Top left corner. Location plan.
So I think they're like maisonettes. So
Yeah,
okay, so the area is 252 square meters for 6. So that is. Someone do some maths quick. 40, just over 40 square meters a house.
Yeah,
Sure.
just over.
Yeah. I think some of them are going to be under 40 square meters. Yeah, so I think on the ground floor to the left, Christine, so you've got
Yeah.
3 front doors on the bottom and I assume 3 front doors on the top as well. They are tiny.
Is there's no yard out the back or anything like that? They've not
They're
got
back to
building.
back and you've got road both sides.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but is there a call for something like this now, like people, young people, just?
well, yes, I mean, I would probably potentially consider something small, but you'd still want somewhere to store your litter, somewhere to store a bike. You'd almost suggest they took one of them out and made one of them into a, just save the ground floor off one of them as a yard and then maybe we could have an overhang over it and make it one of them a 2-bedroom
Yeah,
or something, but I just,
But you also want a decent living for somebody, don't you? I mean, is that gonna? I mean, is it just gonna squeeze people in so they've got a bed and a?
but when you think years ago, people used to live in bedsits and if they're working from home, single person, don't want a lot, they don't spend a lot, that suits some.
in my generation, you know, I would probably
Yeah.
take something, particularly if I could save up for a deposit, I might
Yeah.
consider living in something quite compact for a short
Yeah.
period, couple of years. I mean, you wouldn't want families living, in
No.
it, but I don't know if you could put a planning consideration, sort of families living in. For single people that are working, yeah, it's not a bad option. But no, my concerns were probably the lack of storage, particularly bin storage and cycle storage, because I think really, and there's zero parking, you're gonna put 6 units in that tiny area.
You don't have to have parking because it's town centre.
Well,
No.
Yeah, but at least someone to securely keep your bike would help
Oh, yeah.
in the absence of parking.
Can we not put a suggestion in that, you know, we agree if they took one of them out to make some sort of facility for storing?
I would support that. I think if there were 5
Yeah.
5, one of them was slightly larger and then one of them, and the ground floor had some
Form of garaging or storage in
Yeah.
a bicycles and things.
bicycle bin storage on the ground floor, I think.
Would anybody else like to talk on this? Oh,
Yeah, I just made the comment, I'm sure in my youth I lived in places at least this small, but I've always had somewhere to keep my bike. So I think that is quite a severe limitation on this, you should really recommend that there's somewhere to put biking and rubbish, just some sort
Yeah.
of shared amenity storage or something.
Especially now bin collections are fortnightly. I mean, who wants to keep their litter in the kitchen for 2 weeks?
councillor Northern.
I was going to suggest that we do question the density,
Yeah.
the very high density, because that is a planning, a planning reason.
Yeah.
I think the lack of amenity is a criticism. I'm not sure if it's a planning issue.
Well, you could go on design. You could
Yeah.
say the design of it, we're not happy with the design.
Yeah,
Well, it's
amenity
like-
for, amenity for bin storage and cycle storage, yes.
And is there any disabled, anything for any disabled people?
They're all,
Don't
they're all
think- don't
versatile.
think you have
Thinking about
to.
taking one of the properties out, where's the access to it?
Front door's there, look.
So you've got to go out in the street to go to.
So you got,
And just trying to get it.
front door. I think if we could scroll down a bit, there'll be 3 more front doors on the other side.
Yeah.
So they're back to back, like you
So
said.
that's living room, kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hang on. Yeah, is that all right, Anne?
Yes,
Yeah.
but I'm just trying to get sorted in my mind, that they've got to go out the street. And their front door to go in the other, yeah,
going to the other way.
sorry, to go in where we want the bins.
Design and access statement.
Well, that's up to.
Okay.
Yeah.
The architects to redesign it, isn't it? really?
Design and access statement shows some photos at my.
Yeah.
illustrate that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be up to the architect, whoever, if they're gonna put bins or bikes or to work out how.
Yeah.
First one.
So what did that used to be?
There's another picture further down that shows the other, there you go.
Yeah.
So, Chair, can I? Chair?
Yeah.
Just, one of the points in the text that goes all of this, I do actually agree with. That does look really dilapidated at the moment. One of the benefits of this
Yeah,
is that they're gonna, you can see where they've got abandoned windows.
yeah,
They'll go back in, take it closer to what it looked like originally, rather than that does look like the back of a nightclub.
Yeah.
So it changed the character of that in a positive way,
Mm.
but I do agree with all the statements about at least some sort of lockable storage.
yeah. I've never been to the back of a nightclub, so I wouldn't know what they look like.
That-
So, having listened to all the comments, Luke, would you like to make,
Okay, I could propose then that we object on the grounds of overdensity and small sizes.
Mm.
We object that there is no ground floor storage for rubbish bins or bicycles.
Yeah, yeah.
But you want to put something in about the fact that we may change our minds or something like that, if they use whatever
Yeah.
storage. You wanna put that
Yeah.
in positive?
Well, I suppose we could say we would support if, say, that it was 5 units with a ground floor, shared ground floor storage.
Yeah. And I think we should also sort of say that we accept that for today's living for young people, I think they would be quite, you know,
so
quite acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
could you go back and just read out what we're gonna write up to Dorset?
Yeah, so we're going to object on the grounds of overdensity and small sizes. We object that there is no ground floor storage for rubbish bins or bicycles, and we would support it if there were 5 units with shared ground floor storage.
Everybody happy with that?
We've got the word securing.
Secure, shared.
Can we do something like acknowledge the fact that we accept that, you know, for today's young people or living or however, that, you know, the single person living is acceptable.
So do we have a second there?
I'll second it.
Yeah, seconded by councillor James. Would anybody else like to speak on the proposal that we've got in front? All those in favour? And that's unanimous, Nicky. We now move on to 87, 89, the Esplanade. Councillor Orell. Could you get that one, please?
Yeah, just catch up.
I think there's more supportive one, was that the Backville?
Oh, yeah,
That's the one that's completely dilapidated.
Yes.
That one, yeah. So
We've got a picture of that one.
it was totally supportive and they get on with it.
Yes.
Because we've approved it several times before, it's in a dreadful state. There's some minor changes with some balconies and a tree added, which I see as positive changes.
Which one would we like to look at?
Proposed second one down,
Right. Proposed block plan.
yeah.
Aren't these the ones that we?
Yeah.
We've
okayed
approved it
last
before,
year?
yeah.
Yeah,
We've approved it several times, I think.
yeah.
Yes.
Right, so all you would like to do is say,
Yes.
Yeah, Weymouth Town Council like this, and could they please get on with it?
Strongly support.
Yeah, strongly support and to move forward with it.
Yes.
Yeah. Councillor Norton.
So on the 13th of March, the housing enabling team, I'm sorry, it's quoted in the app that there are over 500 people on the Dorset Council housing register with a local connection to Weymouth, and further 400 applicants have listed Weymouth as a preferred place to live. So this is very necessary. So
Yeah, it's all affordable.
as previously,
So it's
all affordable, yes.
Yeah. So all we're doing is saying, please, can you get on with it? Because these houses are desperately needed.
yeah.
Yeah. So we can do that, can we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You proposing that, councillor Oral?
So, you need a proposal and a second?
I'd rather.
Yeah,
thank you.
proposed by councillor Earl, seconded by councillor Northam. All those in favour? That's unanimous.
Thanks.
Good.
We can now move on to land and buildings known as Tumbledown Farm. Over to you, councillor Earl.
Yeah, to explain this one, it looks complicated, but it's actually moving the building by about 6 foot to the north. We've got permission for this building, which is meant to be,
Is that building A?
yeah, the big one,
Yeah.
toilets and classrooms. To give access for disabled people. What they've realised is when we come to actually do the detailed plans, is that the disabled people in the wheelchair access will be straight onto our access road, which is not good.
Yeah.
So proposes to move it back by 6 foot so that we've got a safe access for disabled people in wheelchairs into the building without being run over. So it's quite simple.
Yeah, so again, all you want to do is
Support it.
support. So, yeah. So give us a proposal that we.
Town council supports this proposal.
Yeah. Do I have councillor, are you seconding? Yeah?
Yeah, I've had a look at the changes because I missed it when it came through. And as councillor Oral says, it's a relatively small move, but it has a significant effect, and it's been supported by highways. And originally there was a comment from environmental protection, and this removes that environmental protection comment. So it should help it to move forward and forward.
So you've got the proposal from councillor Earl, seconded by councillor Northam. Would anybody else like to speak on it? No?
Yeah, second. I'll second that.
Oh, all those in favour then? And that again is passed unanimous. We now come on to planning applications received just prior to legal dispatch. 3A St Albans Street. Does anybody like to speak on that? And then we have Howell Farm access road to Howell Farm, Buckham Ripers.
Yeah.
Change of use from agricultural land to form a horse training arena. Councillor Northam.
This is near to my ward. I'm not convinced it's in my ward, and if it's not in my ward, I'm not convinced it's in Weymouth.
No.
I think it's right on the boundary, actually.
Well,
I think
I've never delivered them a leaflet, even though it's the one that's
Oh, yeah.
furthest away from. There's
No electioneering.
There's another house on the right before you get to this, I have managed, not this one. I know the people that live there as well, so I'm just question why it's come to us.
Well, it could be.
I believe it's come to us because it is right on the boundary, and where we have
Okay.
applications that are right on the boundary.
It's same with Chickerell, isn't it? When they.
I have had a look at the application, and because of its remoteness, I don't see any problem with it.
No.
It's not commercial concern, it's for private use.
Yeah, so we could move that into the
Yeah.
two that we received prior to legal could be moved into item 6. No objections. Yeah. So do we have a proposer to move those two? Proposed by councillor Northam, seconded by councillor Weaving. All those in favour? And that's unanimous to move those two.
Thank you.
We can now move on to item 6, which is planning applications, no objection. Would anybody like to bring any of these up? Councillor, well, go start with councillor Hamilton.
Thank you very much. Apologies, I didn't raise this before. I'd like to consider the first one, which is Jubilee Rosedale Park. Reference 00775.
Just scroll down a bit on the screen. Jubilee Retail Park.
That's
Yeah.
the one. And then there's a second one I'd like to consider, please.
Well, should we stick with that one first? Yeah,
You want to do that?
yeah, please.
Okay. I'm raising this question just to get some reassurance of the level of noise for residents.
Is it quite away from properties though?
If you get the location up.
Mm-hmm.
Councillor Arundel.
Yes, it's my ward, it's quite remote from
Yeah.
residential, it's quite
Yeah.
a car park and then a railway line.
Yeah.
And a lot of the units have got air conditioning units already, so I don't think it will be noticeable.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
What about office space? Is it going to cause any impingement on office space?
I think the units will go on the outside of the building.
Fabulous. Let that be struck out then.
Duly struck.
Duly struck. And
Yeah.
then I may crave your indulgence.
Yes, please.
Third from the bottom of the list is plot 21, 4 Harrods Lane. Do you want that reference number?
Yeah.
That's right, thank you.
Name.
I'll be able to find it.
We should, we changed it. Isn't this what's been contentious? No.
Can you pull that one up?
Yeah, just doing it.
This isn't the people that have always been problem,
Yes, that side.
is it then, yeah?
Okay, which plan would we like to look at?
The location plan, second one, please. Although all the plans we look at, this is not very helpful.
No.
I'm going to suggest that on the right of the screen, you've got Castle Hill Farm, which is cow sheds, I think. In fact, that's what it is. And then you can see at the bottom of the picture where the road and track turn into the plot of land that has been a source of controversy for some time. I think we need clarification from Dorset Council whether this land is still a subject of legal process. Looks to me like what we've got is a landholder trying to do the right thing, but he may be unaware that there's a legal dispute around this land. It's on the boundary between West Dorset and Weymouth. And so the date that we're required to comment by is, I think, is it required to comment by? Can we add it on to next time, maybe?
3rd of April.
3rd of April.
Next week.
Next week.
Okay.
So, councillor Wakeling.
So, I mean, I'm reading this, the person that is applying for permission to use it as an allotment with 2 wooden sheds on it. Which I believe the rules are, we have to sort of consider this, and this on its merits, not on the previous track record of the site or the owner.
Yeah.
And as far as I can see, this wouldn't breach the rules about building houses on it, because they're not proposing that, they want to use it for allotment purposes.
From what I saw, from what I heard from councillor Hamilton, is she's saying Dorset Council need to be aware that there may be legal proceedings taking place over this land, and that could they just be checked, because I don't think we've got a problem with them being allotments.
Perhaps,
I'm not quite understanding councillor Hamilton's.
I would prefer to discuss this in confidence.
I know what she's saying.
So there's been a long running dispute over the right of the land to be used in this way, and the right of the owner to sell plots off like this and mislead the people that buy those plots.
I'm aware of that history, and I believe some people were misled into purchasing these thinking they could actually use them for living on eventually. But that isn't what we're looking at today. This is somebody just asking for permission to legally use it as an allotment.
Okay, I think that's a great point. We have to decide it on its merits. So I'm going to propose we object because of the legal dispute. And then that comment goes to Dorset Council for them to consider. If we have any doubts over any planning application at all, that's the
We've
process.
covered our backs then.
Right. So we have
At the same time, recognising that the plot owner is trying to do the right thing,
Yeah.
for sure.
so we have a proposal from councillor Hamilton. Have you've got that, haven't you, Nicky?
Yeah, propose to object on the basis of legal dispute, at the same time recognising that the plot owner is trying to do the right thing.
So we have a seconder with councillor James. Would anybody else like to talk on the proposal? Councillor Northern.
I understand the reasons for objecting, but it's very important, I think. I would have thought we could have flagged it because they're trying to tell Dorset Council to do their job, which is check that there's a legal arrangement. So I think if we object, we're implying we don't agree with this going forward.
Well, that's not what the proposal says.
Well, but if we're objecting, it'll be taken as an objection.
Yes, if we're rejecting it, be taken as an objection and the planning officer responsible can reject our rejection. That's our process. It was explained very clearly at town clerk at the beginning of this term. If we ever have a smidgen of doubt,
We object,
we
yeah.
will object.
My worry is we're telling Dorset Council to do its job properly.
Well,
That's not a problem, is it?
would anybody else like to talk on the proposal that's been put forward? Councillor.
I would support councillor Hamilton's
Yeah.
objection, because I've had another case recently where somebody has gone through the planning process and the land is in dispute. And the Dorset Council have given it permission, and now they're ready to go back on that.
Yeah.
So if we're aware of the problem, it's behaving of us to
Yeah.
flag it, so I will support it.
It means we've covered our tracks.
So we've got a proposal. Would anybody else like to talk on it? Well, so we have the proposal by councillor Hamilton, seconded by councillor James. All those in favour? Nine, four. All those against? Any abstentions? And one abstention. Thank you very much, councillor Hamilton.
Thank you.
Now, we then come to councillor Bergman. You'd like to raise?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I want to raise the application land to the north of the cottage in Fiddledock Lane, Preston. It's number 2024-01089. Nicky.
Yeah, was just finding it.
For the simple reason it contravenes the neighbourhood plan at certain points, as my understanding is, and also probably equally important, it contravenes the new neighbourhood plan in draft in both, but particularly the first issue is more pertinent, I think, because it's in existence at the moment.
Any particular plan that we want to have a look at there?
So in terms of councillor Hamilton's use of English, saying that if there's a smidgen of doubt,
So
there's more than a smidgen of doubt.
the planning, heritage and sustainability statement is quite a good description of what the developer is after. Would you like that?
Can you bring up the location plan?
Currently, this bit of land, I believe, has a B2 use agreement. It's where, and this is converted to a C3 and allowed to develop into one dwelling. And it's worth having a look at the size of the
Quite large.
large big lot. And if you're going to object it on the basis of the Southern Pad Points neighbourhood plan, you have to point to which policies it contravenes.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure which ones it contravenes.
It's outside the development area.
We've got a plan against.
I don't know which, no, I don't know, I can't give you reference number.
Is there a plan of the?
I don't think it's outside the.
Sorry, I
development
Dwelling
boundary.
that
That could be
they're on
wrong. We need to look it up on the map.
Proposed elevations.
Oh, that's not a diamond.
In the neighbourhood, in the sort of neighbourhood plan, there were a few areas for development, but this was not included, which is my understanding. So it does therefore contribute in principle the current neighbourhood plan, and it's also not included any development in the revised plan up to draft.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So the neighbourhood plan can allocate sites. Jan is quite correct. The draft Weymouth neighbourhood plan at the moment has proposals to allocate certain sites, but that doesn't stop any developer proposing a site that's not allocated. And that's what this is. And that's why, you know, in the Southern Point neighbourhood plan, you'd have to point to the policy that this contravenes. I'm not certain that this is within or without outside the defined development boundary. We could look it up on the map on Dorset Explorer to determine whether it's inside the defined development boundary. That would be a legitimate reason for objecting to it, because we're meeting the housing supply, and therefore you could argue that less isn't required.
Drainage strategy and flood risk
Yeah.
assessment. Well, that's,
And you've got to go right to the bottom.
okay, I'm just trying to make it a bit larger. What's the bottom?
Yeah, there's a map to start to come to.
PDF might be having a bit of an issue catching up. Just tell me when to stop.
You stop there. So it's not in the flooding area. No. So are you going to put a proposal up that you like to object? Because
Yeah, I'm objecting on the basis that it's not my understanding is not within the plan developments within the Southern Ponds neighbourhood plan as it stands.
I really think we need to be certain about facts. Because I don't believe the Southern Point makes a general statement that it doesn't allocate any land for development. That's not to say that a developer can't put forward a proposal for development.
I see your point there, but the plan, the neighbourhood plan, they don't want it.
No, they haven't said they don't want it.
They have in effect because it's not.
They've got to specifically say where and what they want. And it doesn't. Tell me the policy that you're worried it's going to contravene.
Within the plan, there are a number of identified sites for planning, and that's not what it means.
Which plan? The Southern Point neighbourhood plan. That's not my understanding of the Southern Point neighbourhood plan, Chair. We could have a look at it.
Okay.
There is a reason for objecting to this, which I can feed to you, which is that it states in the developer statement that it's inside an important open gap. Okay? The site lies within an important open gap. And therefore, you could object on the basis of ENV3.
Is there photographs of the site rather than the plan?
But the site is existing brown commercial land and with low ecological value, and that would be the argument. But although it's an important open gap, it's not particularly attractive, and that's the argument which the developer is putting forward.
Hmm.
Could you scroll down on the?
Well,
I can just,
There's more than Smithfield.
okay.
So sort of find a bit.
Well, your point as well, which I, well, to be honest, I haven't picked that one up. But that was like the answer to the Smithfield.
Scroll down some.
I'll bring,
I like the Smithfield.
going steady like.
New transport needs and new development.
So that is gonna, okay. Policy GA1.
Yeah, policy GA1.
Let me just make a note of that. Oh.
you should get in the government, all the rules to change anyway.
They keep saying they have to, but they've not been very,
So
prompt.
we can highlight that.
It will all change again.
Oh, you thought.
Yeah, I'm just gonna see if we can. Do you think the document further down gives more detail on that?
Yeah.
GA1.
I'm scrolling through 65 pages of it.
Yeah, it's quite short compared to.
Oh,
It's not a competition.
We weren't trying to win that one. So is it inside the neighbourhood area first?
It is inside the area, that much I can establish.
right, okay.
What's this box? It's in a conservation area.
Yes.
Yeah. Isn't most.
It's in that green area.
So policy GA1.
Anyone know what page I can find that on?
Can you not search GA1? Searchable doc.
Well, it's definitely in the conservation area.
I don't think it's
Yeah.
searchable.
Hmm.
But as a
Oh,
brownfield
hang on, we'll get.
site, you could argue that building a nice house on it will improve it.
Yeah.
Not in employment.
Is it on, is it here, like there?
It's not very pleasant area to look at.
Yeah.
Maybe go back one, that's
That
GA2, so go back to GA1.
Hmm.
There we go. Right.
Bit of this, I can only see one side, that's not good. Doesn't that mean?
So GA1 is about transport needs
Yeah.
of new development.
We won't be in that. So in the neighbourhood plan policy, housing policy 1, house policy 2, sorry. New residential development within the defined development boundary will normally be supported. This will lead to higher density and smaller homes within the defined development boundary. I mean, it is sort of between the two sections of the village, but it is a brownfield site.
Let's see how we can look at it.
So let me just look
It's long, isn't it, I've got around.
They've got a policy on protecting key views, but I don't think it can really count as one of those either.
Where would the view, where would the view be to, a field or a house anyway?
Do we have to respond at this meeting, or can we defer it to the 23rd of April?
No, 8th of the 4th.
Can you request an extension?
I could request an extension. They may not give it to us, but I can request it.
Because it's been brought to the late notice from my point of view, so it would give me more time to look into it.
If I can make a suggestion. Certainly. Dorset are unlikely to process it in less than 3 months anyway. So in all likelihood, we could leave it to the next meeting, probably in complete safety. It's extremely determined in the next 4 weeks, or 3 weeks as it is now.
So the next meeting is the 23rd of April.
Yeah.
We could ask for an extension to then,
Yeah,
while further information is sought.
yeah.
You,
I'd be happy with that.
yeah,
Well, I'll propose that.
yeah.
Second.
Seconded by councillor Weaving. All those in favour? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Would anybody else like any items discussed that are in item 6?
Can I ask a question, actually? I don't think it's particularly about an item, but where it's got this construct additional rock and more protection to south facing boundary wall of the store to south with the boathouse, completely unconnected. The recent subsidence or landslide that happened, are we to be worried about that going forward with this development, because didn't that happen down near Fields?
Which application?
Not on there, I just wanted to ask
Oh,
a
no,
question
sorry.
about
No,
the
the-
planning.
We'll leave that to
Yeah,
the end.
oh, okay,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, that's the, sailing club, though, just put some
Yeah.
anchor against that cliff.
no, I was just gonna ask about the other one, where that was, whether we should be concerned about that
The,
going.
the recent landslip not related to that
Yeah.
was, on the underbarn path,
Yeah,
where they started trying to uncover it, I think the heavy rain
no,
also.
Moving forward,
sorry,
we can then say that all the items left in item 6, we have no objection. Could I have a proposer and a seconder for that, please? Proposed by councillor Orell, seconded by councillor Wakeling. All those in favour? And that's unanimous, Nikki.
thank you.
We can now move on to item 7, which again shows you all the trees, the planning applications of that thing. And again, the recommendation is our usual recommendation that we'll send up, that at least 2 climate change tolerant trees are planted in lieu. And I can quite say that that's happening. It's happened in Telford Park in my, they took 2 out, they put 8 in.
Yeah,
Can we also put in there that they are substantial sized trees and we haven't got to wait 50 years for them to grow?
depends what they are.
That's- You're talking a big cost then, eh?
Yeah,
Lots of cost.
We've still got putting twigs in there. isn't
yeah.
there?
Well, they haven't in, I mean, Weymouth Town Council have done a great job there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you've got, again, you've got to think of the future though, it might be 50 years.
Just to help.
Councillor Orell?
That's the meeting's part. Yeah, there is a kind of counter-intuitive thing with trees, that some of the bigger ones end up with, you don't get the roots don't transpire very well. Whereas if you put a smaller tree in, it establishes those roots and it actually grows quicker in the long run.
Yeah. Well, I know Luke would agree with that, wouldn't you?
Well, I was gonna say, the smaller the tree, when you plant it, the more carbon it's gonna absorb, because it grows more, so.
So we'll just go with the normal recommendation for that, please, Nikki. We
Yeah.
can now move on to item 8, which we have none. Item 9, 10, 11, we have none. We've already discussed item 12. We don't have any other traffic regulation orders for item 13. Item 14, we have information items. Would anybody like to say anything about the 2 items that are in item 14? Yes, councillor Northern?
Yeah, thank you. So, I did provide a neighbourhood plan update to the full council meeting on the 20th of March. I wasn't there, so I don't know whether you were able to read it, but it's on the record, it's an important bit, and this is just an update to that. So the steering group analysis of the Reg 14 consultation responses continues. I can give you a copy of this, Vicky.
Yes.
Clarification sessions have been held with Dorset Wildlife Trust, the Highways team, and the final viability testing report is nearing completing. A briefing on the consequence of the Weymouth Level 2 strategic flood risk assessment to local impact on local development has been requested, but so far no data has been provided by Dorset Council. Responding to FOIs continues to be a distraction to both the steering group and Weymouth Town Council staff. There seems to be some understanding about the Weymouth Neighbourhood Plan policy on car parks. This policy only relates to car parks in the town centre owned by Dorset Council that are listed in the Dorset Council Strategic House and Land Availability Assessment, which was published in 2021, which states for each site what housing might be provided on these sites should they be developed. In the extant local plan, there is no constraint on the redevelopment of car parks. The car park sites are not allocated for development in the Weymouth Neighbourhood Plan. The policy WNP 42 sets 5 criteria to be met before any car park in the town centre can be redeveloped to ensure, and this includes to ensure that there is alternative parking available and that any redevelopment should either provide affordable homes and or local employment and or lifetime family leisure activities. And that's there as clarification because I've seen some things say otherwise. Thank you.
Oh. And just before we go, committee, I'd like to thank Luke for going up to Dorset Council and expressing Weymouth Town Council views on BAPS and
Fitters.
Fitters.
business.
And what-
And thank you very much.
That's right. It was a very interesting committee. It went on for nearly 2 hours actually for a single licensing application, and everybody did, it was quite constructive, kind of back and forth between all the parties, and
Yeah.
I did email them with a slight correction on the decision notice, where it's misquoted me by one word, which made me sound like I didn't know what I was talking about. But aside from that, we did have the applicant had reduced their hours from the initial application before we even got to the hearing. The requirement for door staff at a kebab shop 7 days a week was reduced significantly to just the peak season. And they kept the internal door to keep the sound in, and the toilet is required to be open, so we got what we asked for.
So, and with that, committee, there are no emergency items, so thank you very much. The meeting is now closed.